How common is this, Nedum? How much have you seen this at clubs that you've been to, maybe not as high profile as Marcus Rashford?
I think it kind of depends, to be honest, because very rarely is somebody as talented and as high profile as Marcus Rashford at a club like Manchester United going through what's being said now, but then also a manager having enough sort of like power to be able to come out and say it. Because I think for a few years, like maybe some of the managers haven't been empowered, so anything that they saw, maybe they couldn't speak up about it. Maybe they're just so desperate for results that they just pick him anyway. But here comes somebody who appears to be quite principled and has the backing of the board, so he's trying to do things the right way. So I don't think it's that common overall. I think at times, we've all seen players who like fall out with managers and so on. But again, the power struggle is one whereby, well, who is in charge? Like the manager can have his say, but if the team's struggling sometimes, like I've been with players, for example, when a team's struggling, who says to a manager, like, listen, I'll be here longer than you will. And it sounds really arrogant, really petty, but it ends up being that way. And at that point, you sort of question, well, who's in charge here? Because some players have leverage sometimes the manager has leverage. But in this instance, it seems like Amorim has the leverage, and as a consequence, he's using it. He's using it to create a lesson, to create a culture, to create standards whereby the players all have to buy into. And because it's Rashford, because it's the guy from the academy, because it's the face associated with the club over the last few years, I think that will trickle down to all these other players as well. And to be honest as well, one other example, this in some ways kind of reminds me of a few years ago when there was the Tevez-Mancini thing, where Mancini said Tevez didn't want to play in a game, he refused to play. But Tevez said, well, that was never the case. And now here's the standoff. And in the end, Mancini was the guy that was in charge. So off Tevez went. But I think for many people who were there at the time, the story is far more complicated than, say, Mancini was making out. But because he had the power, he set the narrative and off Tevez went. And before you know it, he was back in Argentina. I
said that to a manager once. I'll be here after you.
Did you?
I was right.
How arrogant.
Well, it wasn't arrogant because it got very nasty.
Wow.
And as Nedum said, it was very complex.
Right, I see.
And it wasn't just me. But so these things, it wasn't just me within that squad who had a bad relationship with the particular manager. So it does happen, and it can, and it festers amongst the rest of the players.
That's the issue, I imagine.
Because you're in the dressing room every day, and players are talking about it, your manager's having to deal with it. Shouldn't we be talking about Man United? Because a great win yesterday.
We can most definitely talk about Manchester United, but unfortunately I want to kind of a negative spin on it.
That was a kind of tongue-in-cheek great win because it was, well, it was a great win. It was a
You look at it, Rasmus Højlund, nothing, Xerxes, there's nothing.
They got nothing.
There's nothing to get excited about in that final third.
Do you know what the best result, apart from their result, that they had yesterday, was that was one of Fulham's much poorer days at the office.
Yeah.
Because Fulham, this season, have been a big threat going forward to every team. They were a threat at the Etihad, could have won. They beat Chelsea away. They've given Arsenal tough games, gone toe-to-toe.
So you look at the stats here for the Højlund, how much is it his fault? How is it a lack of supply?
I don't think, listen. He was as raw as hell when they brought him in from, was it Atalanta? I think he came in from in Italy. He works hard. He's got a great attitude, talking about attitude. He'll fight and he'll scrap. And he'll learn and he'll get better, but I think he's limited.
Right.
I think he's limited. And when we talk about Manchester United...
Limited is a word you could use for a lot of those players.
Yeah, obviously, but when we're talking about their aspirations, you're looking at elite number 9s that club's always looked for. The kind of thing that Man City are looking for now, the kind of thing that Arsenal are out there hoping they can get, the kind of thing Liverpool have always tried to get, although they haven't really got an out-and-out number 9 at the moment. United have always had quality, whether it be Rooney, Van Persie, Cantona, Mark Hughes, the list just goes on. And ultimately, I think this lad, for me, is a good squad player at this club. Maybe he's a good player at an Everton or a West Ham or somebody like that. I think at Man United, where they're aspiring to get back to, then he's not going to be the answer. And obviously, Joshua Zirkzee is not the answer either.